when I got my labs back, I burst into tears because she had me thinking it was in my head. She told me nothing was wrong yet. I was feeling like complete crap and really not functioning very well at all. So whenever I got the labs back and I was like, she was like, this is why you're not feeling great. I was like, the validation was amazing. So my food sensitivities was, I think, one of my more eye-opening ones, because the things that I triggered for were things that I was eating every day, but I'm a healthy eater. Like I ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, clean meats, things like that. And my triggers were like apples, strawberry, spinach, pork, dairy, which I knew anyways, and like all the things that were just like healthy. Like, why would I think that eating spinach and almonds was going to send me over the edge? So I think the food sensitivities was very eye-opening. I ended up having a parasite, which I had no idea. My gut was a disaster. I had low good bacteria, so I had like really no stomach support. I did trigger for anti-gliadin, so I knew gluten was going to come out of my diet. My liver was just over toxin burdened, the stress. And it was funny because I knew I didn't feel well, but then again, you have to start now picking apart your life and figuring out, okay, why don't I feel once I saw the labs? But yeah, my digestion was poor, which explained exactly why I was having a lot of bloating because I wasn't digesting well. So the labs for me was the validation that I needed to be like, okay, I knew it wasn't in my head. I know my body extremely well from being a gymnast, being in PT and everything. So I knew that there was something wrong, but for some reason, someone telling me that there's nothing wrong with you was just, I just wasn't going to let that stand for the rest of my life. I was 45. I wasn't living like this for the rest of my life. So labs, super validating. And I will say with my clients, super validating.
So when you say, just to be clear to someone who's maybe never ran things like this, the bursting into tears, I wouldn't think it's fair to say that it's complete happiness, but you're not saying that it's bursting into tears from sadness. It's almost just like
No.
a relief, like a finally I know what's going on.
Completely. She was just, and the advisor that went through them with me, because I told her, she said, they told me it was all in my head, and she's a sweetheart. She's, nope, take a look at this. And it was just so nice to be able to see something on paper that showed exactly why. It wasn't even like she was guessing, right? It was legit facts on a piece of paper that was like, this is why you don't feel well. And I think it was just, I'd held it in for so long that once I saw it and I was like, okay, then there is a reason. And it's fixable too, right? That was that whole relief of, okay, I can do something to fix it. And this doesn't mean that this is my downfall for the rest of my life at 45 years old.
So what did you have to change then in your life to get yourself to a better place? And the reason I'm saying it like that is because you're one of those people, which happens probably maybe 10, 15% of the time on our podcast, that you were already, I would argue, living better, at least thinking that you're living better than most people out there, certainly most Americans, right? Just the fact that you're taking your physical fitness so seriously. Most of the physical therapists that I know are some of just like the happiest, fittest people that I know. One of my best friends is a doctor of physical therapy. He lives like 10 minutes down the road. What did you have to change? Because I imagine for you, it was almost probably a paradigm shift because, again, you already thought that you were doing well in a lot of ways. So sometimes those changes for the people that believe that they were already doing well, that can be even tougher in a sense. So I'm just wondering, what were the biggest changes that helped you?
Yeah, the hardest one for me was, so my adrenals, I was not producing like any cortisol. I was in the exhaustive phase, and I know you know, but some don't know, but there's a skull and crossbones at the bottom of that map.
That's
That's
Reed,
where
baby.
I was. I was at the skull and crossbones of exhausted body phase. And I knew that I had to take off exercise for a little bit. I didn't realize how drastically I had to. I pretty much had to stop everything. So I took months off of the gym, stopped my membership for a little while, and I pretty much just walked. That's all I could handle. And slowly, a couple months later, I could start to definitely get into maybe some yoga. But I think the hardest thing for me was to get rid of that mentality of that I needed to go to the gym. I needed to be at the gym for hours. I needed to be multiple times a week. And I think setting that off of my life was a huge in my recovery. My food sensitivity is gluten. Gluten came out, and I will tell you that I couldn't hear the food noise back then because I think my body was such a mess. But now when I eat anything that has gluten in it, I hear it. I feel it. My body doesn't like it. It definitely yells at me when I eat gluten. So now I can, once I get that food noise kind of settled down. But I think really the biggest part was changing my eating habits, trying to get sleep. Sleep was huge for me also. I really was not sleeping. So changing my sleeping patterns and doing a couple of supplements to help me get into better sleep was life-changing for me too. But I think the exercise was probably the hardest part for me.
Sure. Okay. So then again, even with the foods, it's not that you're eating so poorly, but even if you even had something like a long-term gluten sensitivity, I honestly, I can't play guessing games with this. It's not responsible as a practitioner, let alone as an FDN. We know better. But sometimes I think that my mom and I both have this genetic non-celiac gluten sensitivity. That
Mhm.
is probably one of the main core things that created our fire, and then all this other stuff gets mixed in. This is just a kind of fun thought experiment. It's more of a guess. But if you had to look back, considering again that you were living better than most people, was it maybe just a combination of something like some long-term food sensitivity that you're not aware of mixed with this high stress lifestyle, even if you were enjoying it, just high stress in a literal sense that there is a very demanding hormonal output needed to compete in the way that you were competing? Is it just that perfect storm, or what do you think actually led to this, if you have a guess?
I can look back and see a lot of things now. For one, I was
Okay.
definitely over exercising, and back in the day, I was definitely under eating. So that was two huge things. So gluten for sure. I was also a crazy person, and I would do a lot of obstacle course races, and I broke my back. So I was surviving on Advil and Tylenol. That was a big, huge portion of my life. I think between all of the life stress, I had a child that had an autoimmune disorder. So I think that was a lot of stress in my body and in my life. So I look back and I can see all the different things. So do I think gluten was a big part? Yes. But also, I think I wasn't really up on toxins as much naturally as I should have. We had changed a lot of cleaning products when we knew my daughter was sick in the beginning. So we had some things, but like things I put on my body, I was not paying attention to. So God knows the perfume I was using, the deodorant, the lotions, like all that stuff was adding just toxins to the body. So I can piecemeal a couple of things together that I could totally see where I ended up. I broke my back and I was back working out like a week later.
Oh,
Yeah, so I wasn't the smartest back then. I've learned a lot in the last 7 years.
yes. Okay. That,
Much
that
smarter.
that would add up. I think that's what's interesting too, is this different perspective that we have, or these different lenses that we wear almost to view the world once we fully understand this stuff. And it's not to create fear mongering around, oh my gosh, everything's bad for us. I refuse to subscribe to that belief system that, like, oh my gosh, you guys are being too paranoid about stuff. It's, no, we're doing things that we were never at all intended to be doing as human beings.
Completely.
Yeah, and I will not buy that that's fear mongering. I think it's, we need to backtrack a little bit, because some of this technological progression, I've always said, has been our regression, right? Regression of our health. So we look at these things as, oh my gosh, look at these amazing modern conveniences. You can be on your phone at 2 a.m. You could clean things faster than ever before. You
Grab
can
food
get
real quick out of the grocery
yeah,
store and packages.
yes, but at what cost, man? Yeah, sure, you can do it quicker, but you're taking away some quality of life, to say the least, while doing that. So, one of the main topics today is fatigue. And this is always a question that I pose to anyone who comes on here, because I don't think it's a perfectly easy question to answer. And I imagine many of the people that would choose to listen to something like this might have this question. So, here it is. If looking back, you said you were over exercising, under eating, all that stuff. However, you are also very correct to say that just because you were 40 or 45 or whatever doesn't mean that you should be rapidly shutting down, or your body should be rapidly shutting
Right.
down. So I guess, other than in a perfect world where everyone runs these functional labs almost proactively, because we know everyone's not going to do that, what are some things now, knowing what you know, that you would say might be warning signs to an individual who's experiencing this, that it's like, hey, this is where the line gets drawn between warning sign, red flag fatigue versus, hey, yes, obviously I'm not going to, it'd be amazing if I think I'm going to perform the same at 80 as I do at 29. Probably not going to happen. I notice a difference at 29 versus 18 just because I'm aware of my body, right? Where does that line get drawn between, hey, this actually makes sense, versus, hey, this is a warning sign? Or would you always recommend testing to truly define that? It's hard to define.
It's definitely hard to define, and I think everyone lives such different lives. I think when people, and what I'm noticing with a lot of clients too, like your head hits the pillow, you're out cold because you're just exhausted, right? Now, normally you could have a busy day, you're tired, yes, you could fall asleep quickly, but a lot of people can't stay asleep and they're up every 2 hours. And that's where I was. I was up all the time, and I think that your body just is so exhausted that you can't stay asleep. The other one was waking up exhausted, constantly just exhausted, reaching for caffeine. If you have to survive on caffeine to get through the day, then there's a deeper issue. If your naps, I'm a napper, like I love a nap, and there's nothing wrong with napping, but napping every single day or crashing out for a couple hours, again, big warning sign. If you're going to take a nap once every in the blue moon, that's not that bad. But if you're crashing every day, every other day, the other one I think is fatigue after workouts. I think that if I look back now, I could see it for years where I would work out and everybody in the class would be back the next day and they'd be recovered. And I was sore and I was tired. And then I started to go from working out 7 days to 6 days to 5 days to 4 days. And everybody else was continuing to go. And I was like, okay, why can't I keep up with anybody anymore? I wasn't recovering the way other people were recovering. And I think that looking back now would have been a big sign of just your body's exhausted because you cannot recover to feel good. So your body just is exhausted.